Stepping Across the Line. I'm your host, Brian Kilman, and to my left, Sergio Cannell. Loves tacos. Reportedly at one time ate 9 tacos in one sitting. And to my right, Matthew Entrikin. Big fan of donuts. I would say he's probably eaten the most donuts this side of the Rockies. Now let's get to our first topic. Russell Westbrook is now the highest paid player in the NFL. What do you think about that, Serge?
I think it was coming, really. I mean, he's got $140 million over the next 4 years, around $35 million a season, as well as a hefty $65 million signing bonus, which is ridiculous. But I think he's pretty well deserving. Some say it might be overvalued, but if you look at his stats, he holds the record by a NFL quarterback through 7 seasons with the most wins with 75, and has a career, one of the only 2 quarterbacks with a career rating of passer rating of 100. And if you look at his stats, he had a 65.6 completion percentage, 3,448 yards, 35 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 110.9 QBR. And he's always been pretty consistent. So I think it was a long time coming. I think he did a great job, and I think he well deserved it. I mean, a little bit too much maybe, yeah. But what do you guys think?
I think Russell Wilson definitely does not deserve that hefty contract. $35 million a year, which makes him the highest paid player in the NFL. And I think a lot of people overrate how important durability and youth are. I think that's what everybody says Russell Wilson's upside is that he's one of the elite QBs who are on the younger side. But I think if you ask any NFL team, they'd rather have 5 winning seasons and no Super Bowls, or 5 losing seasons and a Super Bowl win. They would take the Super Bowl win. The NFL is about winning now, and I don't think Russell Wilson is the guy, the quarterback in the NFL, who deserves the most money. Is Russell Wilson better than, do you think, who has a better chance to win the Super Bowl next year? Does Russell Wilson have a better chance than Drew Brees? Than Tom Brady?
Well, I think when you bring it to that, it goes to like the whole team. You know, in New Orleans, you have Alvin Kamara, you have Michael Thomas at receiver. They just have a full team around Drew Brees, and I'm not, like none of us are gonna say, oh, Russell Wilson's better than Tom Brady. Russell Wilson's better than Drew Brees. We're not. That's not what it's about. But Russell Wilson carries that Seahawks team. Who was on his team last year? Who was on the offense? Chris Carson, Mike Davis, David Moore, Jerron Brown. Who are these guys?
Well, then they shouldn't be paying Russell Wilson $35 million a year to get them there. The Seahawks need to be allocating money to get the pieces that they need. They have their quarterback, and spending that much on him is not going to get them there. You pay based on production, not on averaging 10 wins a season, which Russell Wilson has. He's been trending downwards ever since 2015.
Well, I think when it comes to that, you just go back to the team, because the Seahawks are losing their defense. Richard Sherman went to the 49ers. Cam Chancellor retired. Earl Thomas went to the Ravens. Today, Frank Clark got traded to the Chiefs. They just have no defense left. So it's going to be on Russell Wilson at quarterback to produce for this team. And that's just what it comes down to, is when the rest of your teams go, like Russell Wilson is like the only name brand guy on the team anymore.
Let me ask you this. Is spending that much money on Russell Wilson going to get the Seahawks to the Super Bowl more than spending that much money on a big-time offensive free agent like they could have on Odell Beckham or Antonio Brown? So would that have been a better option?
You're saying that, I get what you're saying. It is true. I guess they could probably use that money, try to bring in more people to help Russell. You think he should have probably taken a little bit less money and say like, hey, like kind of what Brady does, like, hey, I'm going to take a pay cut. Let's see if we can get more players on my side. That's a good point. That is a good point. I think it is a lot of money for one player, but I think it's just the likability of Russell Wilson too. I mean, he's honestly one of my favorite players to watch, so I have a little bit of bias towards him, but it's quite a bit of money, but he has been, I feel like, he's carried the offense a little bit, and we can't forget, the defense did help them in the Super Bowl, but I mean that team was completely loaded. Now after they losing all the defense, it's just it's Russell, and I'm glad for the guy.
Isn't it Russell Wilson the one who threw the interception in the
True.
last second of the Super
True.
Bowl against the Patriots?
Okay, all right, okay.
That goes down to Pete Carroll.
I don't
That
think
goes
he's
down to
making the
Pete
play
Carroll.
call.
Let me
I don't
read you a
think he's
stat.
making the play call.
Let me read you a
Oh,
stat. Here's top 5 quarterbacks that are getting paid the most in the NFL, and let's see how paying them a whole bunch of money has worked out for those teams. Number 5, Jimmy Garoppolo, $27.5 million years, or $27.5 million. Brian, where did the 49ers finish last year?
Okay, to be fair, Garoppolo was out like the entire season.
It's not my problem if you can't stay healthy. Number 4, Kirk Cousins, $28 million. Where did Kirk Cousins and the Vikings finish last year?
I cannot.
Number 3, Matt Ryan, $30 million. Ever won a Super Bowl?
No.
Number 2, Aaron Rodgers, 1 Super Bowl. He's probably worth being overpaid. But last 3, Ryan, Cousins, Garoppolo, they've been the 3rd, 4th, and 5th most highest paid players in the NFL, never won a Super Bowl. Paying your quarterbacks the big money is not how to do it. Getting your quarterbacks to take pay cuts like Tom Brady does and buying pieces around to fill the holes around your quarterback is the way to win a Super Bowl.
Well, I don't even disagree with you on that. But when it comes down to the Seahawks, would you rather have Russell Wilson or just like try to pick up some guy from the draft, try to do this or that, you know? What are you trying to do? Like,
so if the Seahawks didn't pay him $35 million, Russell Wilson
I don't know. He's at like midnight on his deadline. He said, okay, April 15th. That's the last day I'm negotiating. At like midnight, they called and said, hey, we're going to give you $140 million for the next 4 years. And he glad he took it, obviously.
I would too.
But just when it comes down to it, what are you going to do? Just like try to build around your running back. Mike Davis, you're like, Doug Baldwin's going out. Tyler Lockett isn't that good.
Mike Davis has some.
I think as long as they keep Russell, I think that I think they'll be okay. And whether it's this upcoming year or the next few years, I think they'll start to come back to their championship team. But as of right now, it starts with Russell Wilson, and I mean, right now he's the highest paid player, and I think he deserves it. It might be a little bit too much, but hey, you know, I know Matt doesn't like it, but I mean, it's all right though. But
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, okay.
We'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the Seahawks turn out this next year. The next topic we're going to go to is both number 1 seeds in the NHL playoffs got swept pretty quick. The Blue Jackets, not swept, but kicked out of the playoffs, beaten. Blue Jackets swept the Lightning in 4 games. The Avalanche beat the Flames in 5 games. Which number 8 seed is going to do better the rest of the playoffs, Matt?
I'm going to say the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to be able to do the best in the playoffs. I think perhaps the main difference, the main advantage that the Blue Jackets have over a team like the Avalanche is the performance from their goalie, Sergei Bobrovsky. I think the Avalanche haven't had a true, real, elite goalie in a long time, and I think that with Bobrovsky leading the way and being elite against one of the best scoring teams in the NHL and the Lightning is going to be the difference maker between the Blue Jackets being more successful and the Avalanche. It's all about goalie play.
No, yeah. Right now, I believe the Columbus Blue Jackets have the odds of 13-2, and the Avalanche are 14-1, which is both pretty good odds when you consider they're both 8 seeds. But they both played spectacular against those number 1 seeds. With the Calgary, Tampa Bay, and Pittsburgh all being eliminated, I feel like that just kind of leaves the entire championship, open for anyone to come win. And the crazy thing is that they're either going to play the Knights or the Sharks, which are both higher seeds than the Avs. But ever since the Avs have a record of 12-2-2 since March 17, including the playoffs. So I think they just got to keep kind of that focus. And I think they could make it farther than people expected. But I kind of do agree with you that the Blue Jackets might have a better chance than the Avalanche. and we'll just have to guess and see if they got to keep that competitive edge. They both could be a dark horse, as we already saw in the first round. But what do you think, Brian?
I'm going to say the Avalanche are going to go farther just because, it took them 5 games to beat the Flames, the number 1 team in the West. 5 games, and they won a lot of those games pretty decidedly. They did get 2 wins in overtime. When you look at the players on the team, Mikko Rantanen has 9 points in the playoffs. Nathan MacKinnon has 8. Both of them have a game-winning overtime goal. They have probably the best top line in the game. Rantanen, Nathan MacKinnon, Gabe Landeskog. I just think when they go up against a team like the Golden Knights or even the Sharks, they're just going to see, the Avs have had some days off. They're getting some rest. And the Knights and the Sharks played into double overtime the other night, and they're going to play Game 7. And I just think when it comes down to it, the Avs are going to be more well-rested, and they can game plan, against the Knights or against the Sharks better than the Blue Jackets can against, say, the Maple Leafs or the Bruins.
I think you're wrong, and here's why. I don't think many people can argue that in the regular season, the Lightning had the best team in the league. Avalanche have a great team, but that's not the point. Winning in the playoffs isn't about who has the best players, who has the best skill. It's about momentum. Anything can happen in the NHL playoffs. And I think that when you're hot, when you're riding these winning streaks, and when you have the best team, the team who is playing the most perfectly at that time is going to be the team that's most successful. Here's a stat for you. All 3 teams that have swept a number 1 seed went on to win the Stanley Cup. Happened in 1995 when the Devils swept the number 1 seed, in 1988 when the Oilers swept the number 1 seed, in 1970 when the Bruins swept the number 1 seed in the playoffs. They all went on to win the Stanley Cup.
You see, when you look at the Avalanche, say they have to play the Sharks. The Sharks were 3-0 versus Avalanche this year, and in one of those games was the last game of the season. That didn't matter. It was just a garbage time game because both teams were locked in. Avs were the 8th seed. Sharks are going to be the 2 seed from the Pacific, and so that game didn't matter. The Avs lost, but didn't really matter in regards to playoff positioning. And the other 2 games, the Avs had a terrible stretch. They won like 2 out of 20 games in the stretch, so they lost 2 games to the Sharks. So I think you definitely can't reflect it upon that. And just like you said, postseason hockey is not the same as regular season hockey. So the Lightning did not show up in the postseason. And just to say, if they beat the Blue Jackets, beat the Lightning, but I don't think that's eminent of the team that the Blue Jackets is entirely. I think the Avalanche are just better. They're showing up in the playoffs.
Well, see, here's the thing. You're talking about how good the Avs front line is, about Mikko Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon. But I do not think that those players are better than some of the scorers that the Lightning have on their team. And when you think about a team like Columbus beating the Lightning, I think since a lot of things change in the playoffs, that allows teams like the Blue Jackets to be successful. And whoever is the hottest in the playoffs is going to be the team that is the most successful.
Well, here's the thing. When you look at it in the series against Calgary, the Flames gave up 50 or more shots in 2 games against the Avalanche, back-to-back games. And the Flames did not give up 50 shots to any team all season. So the Avalanche are getting shots. So it doesn't matter who they face, whatever they have to go against, Martin Jones or Marc-Andre Fleury, in the next round. They're putting shots on goal, and any goal you put out in front of it can't stop every shot. That's just how it is.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know about Avalanche's goalie being
Blue Jackets
being that guy in the playoffs.
Oh man,
it's all about the goaltending.
Bobrovsky, I don't think
Bobrovsky is elite.
That's highly debatable. Highly debatable. So the next topic we're going to go to here is we're going to talk about what NBA Finals matchup would we like to see most, Sergio?
I want to see the Warriors versus the Milwaukee Bucks because I want to see the two number one seeds go head-to-head with, I think, the MVP and most likely going to be the MVP with Giannis versus the Warriors. I think there's just a lot of star power in between both teams. You got Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe. You have Giannis. They have incredible depth, incredible length that could challenge really the Warriors. And the Warriors are without DeMarcus Cousins, which could be a problem when trying to contain Giannis to get into the paint because he's been absolutely unstoppable. That's the matchup I want to see. And what about you guys? Who do you guys want to see really battle it out?
Well, I think the best option for the NBA Finals is going to be the Warriors versus the Celtics. I think that's what the people want to see. I think that's what's best for the NBA. And at the end of the day, I think that's going to be the only matchup that will be competitive in the finals. I think the Bucks are a great team, but I don't think they're going to they would get past Game 5 in the NBA Finals because no one, I mean, barely anybody on the Bucks roster has been to the playoffs, much less the NBA Finals against one of the greatest teams of all time in Golden State Warriors. And let me ask you something. Everybody wants a competitive NBA Finals. Who is the only man in the Eastern Conference who has been a part of defeating the Warriors in the NBA Finals? That is the leader of the Boston Celtics, Kyrie Irving. The Boston Celtics have all the pieces to beat the Warriors. They have Kyrie Irving. They have the experience. Everyone's been there. They just need the chance to execute in the NBA Finals. I think this is going to be the best show for the fans, for the NBA. I think Warriors and Celtics would be a legendary matchup.
I disagree. I think the best show, even if we see the Warriors in the finals again, the best show is Giannis. Clearly the most fun guy to watch in the NBA. He's a freak of nature, and personally, I'd like to see the Bucks versus the Nuggets in the finals because I think when you look at a team like the Nuggets, of course they have to beat the Spurs first, which not to take anything away from the Spurs, they're tied 2-2 in the series right now. But I think the Nuggets can get past the Spurs. Jokic is probably the best big in the West, and then the 8th youngest team in playoff history. And I feel like we all just want to look and see like, oh wow, like the Nuggets are doing well, and I think the Nuggets are an easy team to watch and say, wow, I like that team. While if you look at, say, the Golden State Warriors, everyone hates the Warriors, the refs hate the Warriors, So we don't want to see a game where the refs are just controlling the whole game because they're just like, Kevin Durant gets a foul, Nobody wants to see that. And when you look at it, that Pepsi Center is one of the loudest places in the NBA. When the Nuggets are at home, they get excited. And frankly, even if it's not this year, next year has a lot of promise because you got Michael Porter Jr. and Isaiah Thomas should probably be good next year. But I just think the Bucks will give any team in the league a run for their money more than, say, the Celtics could. Because I think the Celtics played a weak Pacers.
No victory.
I mean, they swept them. What more do you want them to do?
No Oladipo. Here's Victor Oladipo.
Listen to me.
They go 7 if Oladipo's playing.
Listen to me. No disrespect to you guys, but your opinions do not reflect the opinions of America.
That's false.
The highest watched finals in history, 1998 Bulls versus Jazz, led by, it was Michael Jordan versus Karl Malone and John Stockton.
Yep.
Great matchup, legendary matchup. You have the star power. Next most highest watch matchup, 1993 Bulls versus Suns, Michael Jordan versus Charles Barkley. Ever heard of them? Next, 2016 Warriors versus Cavs, Steph Curry versus LeBron. We want the big time matchup. We want big city versus big city. We want the best star versus the best star. We need Kyrie versus KD. This is the matchup everyone wants. Celtics versus Warriors. That's what
I don't see anyone stopping
want.
Giannis.
Yeah.
Giannis is a great player.
Also, do you know why no one watched Steph Curry versus LeBron in the next years after that? Because no one wanted to see that. Everyone's tired of Steph
yeah,
and the
because we
Warriors.
saw it twice.
Whatever.
We had our fill. Now it's time for the Celtics and the Warriors.
Let's go Nuggets.
And now we're going to get to our last topic of the day. Should Kyler Murray be the #1 draft pick in the NFL draft this year? Matt?
No, I don't think Kyler Murray should be the #1 pick. Mainly for the reason that it's not what I think is going to be best for the Cardinals. If they give up on Josh Rosen, they will not be able to get 100 cents on the dollar. And not only that, but I think Kyler Murray is going to fail just as Josh Rosen did. Because there's a reason the Cardinals are the #1 pick this year after picking at number 9. They don't have the pieces around their quarterback to support them. There's no pass protection. Their offensive weapons aren't there. Pass protection in the NFL is primary. That's why Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield succeeded at Oklahoma. Arizona needs to draft people around their quarterbacks that are going to get them there. They need tight ends, wide receivers. And when you have players like T.J. Hawkinson and Noah Fant, great tight ends available in the draft, or Marquise Brown and DK Metcalf, top 2 wide receivers in the draft, I think those are the pieces you need. And I think Josh Rosen can be the guy. You picked him for a reason last year. I think that is what the Cardinals need to do, and not go for Kyler Murray. They could trade down. They could trade out of #1 and go and still get one of those 4 offensive weapons and another piece for trading out of #1. There's a lot of upside for foregoing Kyler Murray.
Well, here's the thing. When you talk about Josh Rosen, and there's a reason they didn't do good. There's a reason the Cardinals have the #1 pick in the draft, because they were terrible last year with Josh Rosen as quarterback. 66.7 passer rating, 11 touchdowns, 14 interceptions.
Ouch.
That's just terrible. And Kyler Murray should go to the NFL because the NFL has money. When you look at Andrew Luck versus Ronald Acuna, you look at MLB versus NFL, you say Andrew Luck is going to make $105 million more than Ronald Acuna in his first years as professionals. Because if Kyler Murray doesn't get drafted #1, I don't think he wants to play anywhere else. He has that relationship with Cliff Kingsbury. He's known him since high school. So I just think it comes down to Kyler Murray deserves to go #1. Very similar to Russell Wilson, who we just saw is getting paid in the NFL. I think he deserves to go #1.
I also do believe he deserves to be #1. I mean, you look at his stats: a Heisman winner, 4,361 yards, 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And this was just in his first year as a starter too. And like you said, Brian, he is compared to Russell Wilson. He's a dynamic runner. He's an accurate passer from the pocket. If you let him improvise, I think he could do an amazing job. And I think he could help the Cardinals. But that being said, the Cardinals do need to get some pieces to help him around. But I do believe he should go #1 in the draft. And at this point, I think it's a consensus pick, really. For the top QB right now. I mean, I know there's other notable QBs like Drew Lock, Dwayne Haskins, but I do believe that Kyler Murray has made the case right now. And the crazy thing is, he might become the first player to ever be picked, in the first round of the MLB and NFL, which just tells you a testament to his athleticism. That being said, it should be interesting to see the draft, really.
All right, now we're going to go to some closing statements. Matt would like to lead off.
Well, we'd like to mention that Chris Davis did officially end his 0 for 50 hitless streak.
Ooh.
He's getting hot right now. He's back to the Chris Davis we know. Also, we'd like to say that Luke Walton definitely did not deserve that Kings head coaching job after getting accused of sexual assault. Columbus Blue Jackets are going to win the Stanley Cup. And the NFL has officially decided to join the NBA and letting children play after OBJ has trashed his former team, the New York Giants.
And I'd just like to say the New York Mets are going to win the World Series. That's all I have to say.
Shout out Nuggets for bouncing back from 2-1. Jokic, you played out. Let's take Game 5 at home and let's win this series, really. So shout out Nuggets.
All right, thanks for joining us today on Cross the Line. We'll see you next time.